Welcome to Inspect. My guest this week is a designer, developer, entrepreneur, speaker, and a teacher. He's the author of the Sublime Text Power User Guide, created a bunch of training courses including React for Beginners, ES6 for Everyone, JavaScript 30, and most recently, Learn Node. He's the guy on Twitter that tweets screenshots of his beautiful text editor theme, and just an all-around nice guy. It's my pleasure and my privilege to welcome to the show Mr. Wes Bos.
Haha, awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
I'm super excited about it. Yeah, no problem.
How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. Just doing a little bit of email marketing this morning. I also just set up some credits for DigitalOcean for some people that are taking one of my courses. So
yeah,
been a pretty chill day.
Good stuff. Yeah, I literally just received your email like half hour ago about your your promotion and your sticker venture. But I suppose we could talk about those a little bit later on.
Sure.
We'll get to that. So I suppose a good place to start with, it's just a little bit about you and the beginning. How did you start and what your first experiences of web development are? Or maybe you want to start a little bit further back than that, like where you're from and where you grew up.
Yeah. So I'm from Hamilton, Burlington, Toronto area. It's in Ontario, Canada. Mm-hmm. I've been here all my life, just in a couple different cities. And I've been in web development for a long time. I first got started probably when I was in, 5th grade, 6th grade or so. And then I dabbled with it here and there, making a couple of websites. But I really got serious into it when I was in high school. I was making MySpace designs. I don't know if you remember MySpace.
Yeah, of course.
I was building MySpace designs. I was designing T-shirts, designing CDR, designing posters, and sort of like all that stuff had to be cohesive. So a part of it was to build the MySpace, and that's where I really picked up CSS. And then from there, it's kind of history. It's just been chugging away at it for 10, 12 years now, and through that time, I've been able to get pretty good at it. I'm still not great, but I'm getting pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Is this a MySpace page for your own music or for other people?
No, that was the thing about me, is that like I always joke with my friends that I played the computer because all my friends could play instruments and sing, but I was just garbage at all of it. I tried, but the one thing I could do really well, which was design stuff and slice up a MySpace page and make it look pretty sweet.
Yeah, MySpace was actually a good place to learn, especially CSS, because it was full of hacks and you had to really work your way around.
Yeah, it was my first time like really understanding what CSS actually did, because the way it worked is that MySpace would just like throw up this disgusting table markup, and there was like 8 classes on the entire body, and then you'd have to use nested selectors in order to get to the TD, TR, TH row, and then you could style that and put a background image on it. So it was kind of nice because like I don't know if you remember like the CSS Zen Garden, where you would like get like this like HTML, and then you would write the CSS, and you were like sort of had your hands tied in terms of the markup, and that's what really drove home the markup can be static, and what it looks like can totally change depending on what you do in your CSS.
Absolutely, yeah. MySpace was one of my first experiences with sort of front-end CSS as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I used to make music myself, so I had a personal page on there. But because I, growing up, I was like enjoyed studying art and design and graphic design. Making it look different and better than everyone else was always my goal, really, and just to try and see what, push it to its limits, really. But yeah, like you said, you really had to drill down in nested selectors, and there was quite a good community back then as well of people who had found hacks of how to add things to your MySpace page and where to add them in.
Yeah.
So there was
there was a one like generator website, which I wish I could have known how to build something like that, because I think they were just making bank selling different themes and whatnot.
Exactly, yeah. In the same way as like you can buy WordPress themes now, and back then you were buying MySpace themes as well. And it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm glad it doesn't still exist though. Can you imagine if people were hacking away at their Twitter profiles or their Facebook profiles?
I remember being so pissed when you couldn't. I remember putting like style tags into my Facebook bio because that was a big thing when Facebook first came around, and I was so pissed that you couldn't style your own Facebook page. And I was like, this is dumb. How will they ever survive?
And yet here they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing all right.
Yeah, they're okay.
So did you study anything related to web development?
Yeah, kind of. I went to school for what's called business technology management. So it's a business degree. It's the same degree you get if you go for being an accountant or something like that. But the focus of my degree was on the technology side of things. So like I never learned to code at all in school, but I did learn a lot about how technology works and communication and interfacing with people and interacting with teams and sort of like more like the soft skills around building a business with technology, and then more of like the planning side. So diagrams and swim lanes and cost estimates and all that stuff. So it wasn't like, I don't look back at it and say like, oh, I'm glad I learned how to build swim lanes and calculate server cost. But I do look back at it and say like I do have a bit of a well-rounded look at business and technology. And a lot of what they also taught us was like how to be personable with people. So like how to talk and how to communicate technology to different stakeholders. So I think that was fairly useful.
Yeah, I bet that's obviously come into handy now that you're teaching as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, before we get onto the teaching side of things, was there a pivotal point where you realized that this was the path that you wanted to go down? When you realized that it's maybe a bit more than just a hobby and MySpace pages, that you want to turn this into your career?
Yeah, it was. So through university, I had different co-ops. I worked for different companies. Like I worked for Exxon Mobil, which is a huge oil and gas company. I worked for small agencies that did like video work, and I did a lot of their web stuff. So like all through, I just did different like sort of like technology stuff. I worked in like a stock trading floor, and I would generate reports from their database. And I just didn't really love any of it, and I hated quite a bit of it. So it's still through there. I was still doing MySpace pages and whatnot. And I had been, what's funny about the MySpace pages is that they started to die off, and all these like punks started to grow up, and they would start to build actual businesses. So they would hire me to build like a website for their pool company or a website for their tattoo company. So that sort of transitioned. And by the time I got done 4 of the 5 co-ops that I had to do, I was just so sick of working for other people, and I was making more money at night just freelancing and doing like WordPress projects than I was at my actual co-op for 8 hours a day. So I convinced my co-op coordinator to let me co-op for myself for my last co-op in school, and they agreed, and it was hilarious because I had to write my own like review. I did great, and then. From there, it was just like another year of school. And by the time I graduated school, I was just so done with school. I was just like full on in my business. I was running it. And at that point, I was able to just like be done with school and have much more time to be able to devote to doing consulting and freelance work.
And that's what you've been doing ever since?
Yeah, I've never had a real job, just co-ops. They paid money, but they were all just 4 months long. So I've never really I've worked on many teams as a consultant, but I've never had a full-time job before.
Okay, wow. So you also teach at Hacker U, that's right? Yeah.
It's a coding school here in Toronto.
Is that similar to like General Assembly?
Yeah, similar kind of idea, where they have boot camps and part-time classes.
All right, and how did you get into that? Is that something that they approached you with, or did you approach them?
Yeah, it actually way before like these coding schools are even a thing. I was like trying my hand at blogging, and I had written a bunch of WordPress blog posts on how to do custom stuff in WordPress. And at the same time, there's a couple of people here in Toronto that were building this thing called Ladies Learning Code, and it was like sort of this not-for-profit startup where they would hold Saturday workshops and teach people how to code. And I was part of one of the first workshops that they ever did, which was WordPress. And that's really where I found out that I liked teaching, because I just had fun with it, and I put all this content together, and it seemed to really click with people the way I explained it. And then from Ladies Learning Code, a couple of years later, they branched off and built HackerU, which was because people were like, great, like this is really good. Now, like, where do I go to keep learning? I want to like really dig into this, because I had a taste of it on the Saturday workshop, but now I want to really learn it. So that's what HackerU was sort of born out of. And I was their first, not hire. I'm not like, I've always just been kind of a contractor for them, but I was their first. I built the first part-time web development program. I built the first boot camp that they did. I built the first JavaScript class, first WordPress class, and now it's a fairly large company, and they're doing some really great stuff with it.
Right. So your courses that you teach at HackerU, are they for beginners, intermediates, or across the board? And what's your main sort of topic that you focus on?
For a couple of years, it was intro to web dev. So it was like totally for beginners. Like, it's not anyone can come in. Like, you have to pass a bit of a tech challenge to make sure that you're technologically literate. I guess I can't even say the words, but you have to like make sure that you're like a good fit for this type of program. And then it's an intro to web dev. And then generally what happens is that most people make their way through web dev. And then there's a whole bunch of other different part-time classes. The other two that I've spent my time on was JavaScript, which I've taught for the last couple of years, and WordPress as well, which I've taught for the last couple of years. So yeah, it's the people who make it into WordPress and JavaScript are pretty smart by that. They've gone through the intro to web dev, or they've been working as developer for a couple of years.
Yeah, and have you kept tabs with anyone who's taken one of your HackerU courses and seen where their career has led?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a fairly strong community. We talk to these people all the time. Lots of them are friends of mine. So yeah, it's crazy to see, because I've been at it for 5 years now, and the people that have taken it like 3, 4, 5 years ago, now they're intermediate senior developers, and some of them are even teaching classes themselves, just because like 5 years is a long time in web development. You can skill up pretty quickly if you put the time in.
Yeah, and especially if you're taking the right type of courses.
Yeah,
which obviously brings us nicely onto what you're doing now. Really, you're obviously known for releasing these amazing courses in JavaScript and general web development tools and tips, free courses and paid ones as well.
Yep.
I've taken a couple of your free courses. I've done the Mastering Markdown, and I've looked at JavaScript 30. I think there was one other one. I think it was the Sublime Text
Flexbox, maybe Sublime. Oh yeah, yep.
Oh, Flexbox as well. Yeah, I've seen both of those.
Awesome.
I watched one of them on YouTube. I think it was the Sublime one. One of them is shared on YouTube, and the others are.
Oh yeah.
Through your courses program. But yeah, brilliant courses. Just the fact that you've obviously sat down and spent the time to record these videos and all these screencasts and actually come up with the content as well, and then giving away a lot of it for free is just obviously amazing. And I'm sure you're helping a lot of people progress their careers. I know I learned loads from the JavaScript 31.
It's crazy to hear the people email me and say like, I got a job, or I got a promotion, or I quit, and because I did this. And it's kind of weird for me to think of that, but
you're changing people's lives.
That you're actually affecting people's lives. It's kind of funny, but great, obviously.
So what actually inspires each of those courses? Because they're all very different. You've got the JavaScript courses, but then obviously you've got Markdown, and then you've got CSS ones in between.
Yeah.
Are you just trying to cover a broad sense, or are you picking?
It's just stuff that I do. That's like, obviously I want to make a course that people want and that will sell well and that are asking for, but really what it all is I'm just trying to get out of me everything that I know and how I build websites and apps, So every course that I do is like, this is how I build a React app. This is how I'll build a Node app. This is how I'd write my CSS. This is how I'm writing JavaScript without using jQuery or whatever it is. So it's like kind of just like, how do I get out of me? Because people are asking me all the time, like, how do you build specific things? And then the other thing is like, I listen to a lot of people about like what they're having problems with or what they're sort of looking to learn next. And that will help influence what the courses are.
Yeah. And the JS30 one, the fact that you didn't use any any libraries, any jQuery in there.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, including myself, when we think of vanilla JavaScript, we think quite small. And we think of sort of basic DOM manipulations or, maybe get a little bit worried that everything's going to take too long or it's going to be quite difficult. And obviously that's why jQuery is there. And just by the content of your course, you can see that it's very powerful with very little code. Or admittedly, it is year 6. So there are a few newer techniques in there.
Yep.
But it just shows the power of just vanilla JavaScript and how you don't need to rely on these libraries.
Yeah.
So how did you pick the 30 projects that you did for the JavaScript 30 course? Were they handpicked from a larger list, or how did you come up with those ideas?
It was a fairly big list. So essentially, like the whole JavaScript 30, if people don't know what that is, it's 30 things that you build in 30 days in just JavaScript. So it's not like a anti-jQuery thing. It's people are exhausted at all of the tooling. People are asking me, like, how do I get better at just JavaScript? And my answer to that was always like, you just have to like put in a lot of work and you have to build lots and lots of things. And because that's how I learned. But if people don't necessarily know like what to build. So that's sort of why I came up with the course in the first place.
And these aren't really like rough JavaScript projects. These are well polished, well designed mini projects.
Yeah, they're fun. They look good. They have a lot to them. So
yeah,
I always hate doing tutorials where you're just console logging foobar or you're using Bootstrap or something like that, because it just isn't fun. And if you're not invested in it, you're not going to actually finish it.
Yeah, and it was nice that you provided starter files as well, which had the HTML and the CSS written, so the people can just focus just on the JavaScript and they'll have a nice looking end result.
Yes. Some people don't like that, but I would be here all day if I did it.
Yeah, of course they can go and then change the CSS and put their own spin on it, but at least out of the box they've got a good looking end product.
Exactly. Most people do. Anyways, you were asking how did I pick them? Essentially for like the last 2 years I've been before the 2 years before that, I have had this idea for JavaScript 30. And every time that I had an idea of something that I wanted to build or something that I wanted, little proof of concept that I needed to teach to myself, I would throw it in the list. And then over 2 years, I would have a list of, 50 or so of these projects that I wanted to build. And I would also build them as well over the years. And then at a certain point, I just had this huge folder of ideas and half-done projects, and I just combed through them and polished them all up. And then I picked the 30 of them that actually made sense and that were doable in 10 to 30 minutes and that were exciting. And that like also taught you stuff, because like the whole idea is like you're going to learn a specific thing like webcam access, but along the way, you're going to learn really like I'm like tricking you into learning the fundamental stuff that you don't necessarily want to spend time on, like event listeners and all like these like little things that come up, but you're not going to sit down and like read the documentation on because it's so boring. But if you put it into practice and actually build something real, then you're going to learn it along the way.
Yeah. No, excellent. And so what are you planning to do with the ones that didn't make the cut? Will there be like a part 2 of this, you reckon, sometime in the future?
I don't know. They're not very good. So that's why they didn't make the cut. They're either too big, too complex. They're not like, they just like, I don't know. It was an idea I had, but I scrapped it because it wasn't a great idea. It wasn't fun. So there might be a part 2 at some point, just because there's a lot more ideas that I do have. And people are asking for it because they go through it and they're hungry for more, which is great for me when somebody actually finishes a course. That's how I know that it was a good one.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people got through that course very quickly as well. definitely quicker than 30 days. I binge watched all of them in, I don't know, probably in about 4 days, I think. I didn't work along in real time with all of the courses. I kind of watched them and then went back and played with the code. I just found it easier to sort of work through them that way. But although it could have taken 30 days, it was. I know a lot of people condensed it down a lot quicker.
There's a couple of people that did it in 1 day, which is incredible. I guess they spent like 18 hours. It's not 18 hours of video, but in order to watch the videos and then also implement it yourself, it takes a while. So it's pretty incredible that people do it so quickly.
I've seen like a few people have created their own GitHub repositories now where they've remixed your 30 ideas and made their own versions of them and created their own version of JS30, which is cool as well, right?
Yeah, I love that because like the whole point of learning is that you get excited about what you're building. And like I always have ideas, and I always have like these like stupid things that I'm building because I have an idea and I take it and I run with it. But people don't necessarily always have that. So the fact that sometimes when somebody builds something and they go, oh, I wonder if I can make it do X, Y, and Z, and then they sort of take it and remix it, I think that's super cool because that means that they're excited about it, they're invested in, they're actually learning.
Yeah, amazing. So that course came out, was it the end of last year or beginning of this year?
End of last year. I think it was November or something like that. I should look back.
Yeah. But more recently, last week I think it was, or the week before, you've released your new course, which is all about Node. It's called Learn Node.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that course and what it involved?
Yeah, so it's my biggest course so far. It's I think it's almost 10 hours of actual video content. And basically what it is I've been building applications, like the server side of my applications in Node for, 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. I was a very early adopter of Node, and I've learned a lot about how to actually build apps along the way. And people have been asking for how do I do that, and what is my own course platform built on, and they're fairly curious in that. So I built this Node course, and what it does is it teaches you Node, Express, MongoDB, Passport, a couple other major packages that are pretty popular in the Node community. And we build this application from start to finish, and it includes all of like the real world stuff that you would run into, like user authentication and error handling and messages and user accounts and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't really got much experience with Node, so that's probably going to be the next one on my list.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who do my courses are more like on the front end of things, so it's kind of nice for them to have an introduction to the server side. That is, I don't know, I feel like it's fairly approachable. It's a big course, but it's nicely chunked into like major topics that are 30 minutes, 20 minutes long. And that'll allow people to not be so overwhelmed with the because building a Node app is huge. It's really hard, but if you can cut it down into these chunked things where it works along the way, then that's ideal.
Okay. So what would you say to someone who hasn't really got much experience in JavaScript? How would they get into the language and maybe get onto these courses? Because they're not really beginner courses, are they? You do need to have some.
No, that's something that I'm like major lacking right now, which is like people would be like, I'd love to take every single one of them, but you don't have like a JavaScript 101. So what I've heard from people and like I don't necessarily know what the best thing is right now, just because it's been a long time since I've been a JavaScript beginner. But what I've been hearing from people is free Codecamp JavaScript stuff is really, really good. There's a book called Eloquent JavaScript, which is really, really good. Kyle Simpson has a You Don't Know JS, which is it's a little bit more technical and a little bit more like this is what the spec says. And people who do my stuff are more like, let's build an app or let's build a clicky thing or whatever. So it's more of a different learning type there, but that seems to be a really good one as well. There's a couple others, but I'm keeping notes because eventually I'll make my own JavaScript introduction course.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a couple of the JavaScript courses on lynda.com, There's one, I think it's called JavaScript Essential Training. And it's really good, actually. It goes, obviously, as someone who already has some experience with JavaScript, it feels very basic because it talks about things like variables and how to set a variable and how to use one. But for someone who's never done any sort of programming before, I think it's a brilliant course. So that would be something worth checking out to get some structure from and get some hints on how to sort of, what the basics are again. And
well, that's good to know, because like if people want to buy my courses and they can't, then I need to send them somewhere first, and then hopefully they'll come back. So
yeah, definitely. So do you have any more courses planned? Anything that's in the works?
I've got nothing in the works yet. I've got notes on quite a bit of different ideas. I'm pretty much just like have my ears open right now, and like I'm like listening for what people want. And the predominant chant right now is it goes to a couple topics. Is some people want to learn CSS because I have a Flexbox course, but like I don't, in my tutorials, whenever we build these like amazing looking things, we don't go through the CSS because the course would be 40 hours long.
Yeah.
But people want to know like, how do you do it and what's your approach and all that. So I'm thinking about what a CSS course would look like. I do want to do a CSS 30, which is similar to my JavaScript 30. I have the domain name already.
Yeah, you've got a habit of buying domain names, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch. And I don't know, so there's some React stuff that more advanced React stuff I'd like to teach. There's GraphQL starting to pick up steam, so I'd like to cover that as well.
I saw a tweet by someone named Anthony Garand on Twitter where he had done some detective work because you've got Flexbox. What is flexbox.io is the website for your Flexbox course.
Yep.
And he tweeted that, I'll read the tweet out actually. I read a post on CSS Grid and I thought that Wes Bos should make a video course like flexbox.io. Did a whois on cssgrid.io and he found out that you own it. So is that something that you're planning? Have you got a CSS Grid course planned?
Yeah, I do. I haven't started work on it yet, but CSS Grid is just like rapidly coming around. It seems like in the last 2 months or so, everybody's been talking about it. So I've been doing my research over the last 6 months or so, and I'm gonna build some sort of like something like Flexbox, where it's the introduction, the video introduction that you send people to if you need to sort of skill up on CSS Grid. So it's hard. Flexbox and Grid are like it makes CSS actually pretty difficult to do. Once you learn it, it's amazing and it's super flexible. But learning it is a bit of a hump. So I want to create something that will be super accessible and also get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, I think what makes both of them quite difficult is because a lot of new properties have been introduced all at the same time.
Yep.
Whereas with the transition from CSS 2 to 3, it wasn't that big. There was just a few sort of niceties that were added, things like border radius and some of the animation stuff.
Yeah, it was just like stuff we wish we could do, and now you have to like relearn how entire layout systems work, which is a bit to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I've been following some of the stuff that Rachel Andrew and Jen Simmons have been putting out, who are obviously doing loads on this, and just looking at some of the posts that people have created on CodePen. And obviously there's amazing stuff that you can do with it, but just trying to remember all the syntax is something that hasn't stuck into my head yet.
Yeah, I know, it takes a while.
So the first thing you do obviously is you end up at CSS Tricks post on all the syntax, but a video would be great.
It probably took me a year to stop going to CSS Tricks or Flexbox. Like the fact that I had to remember justify content and align items.
Yeah,
and the flex, grow, shrink, and basis.
Yeah, just remembering those, which one goes on the parent, which one goes on the child. Is my stumbling block all the time, and I always end up on Chris Goyer's article on CSS Tricks.
That thing's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that would be great. CSS Grid course would be great, and it was bubbling away in the background for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden, all the browsers started supporting it in March, and now it's just everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to learn it all at once. So it's a perfect time to.
Yeah, I had a bet with Sarah Drasner, who's a developer. She writes for CSS Tricks as well. We had a bet last October at a conference, and she was like, "It's going to be years before CSS Grid," and I said, I said next year at this conference, I guarantee that it will. We bet that it would be green all across. Can I use? And she's gonna buy drinks. So I think that I'm gonna win that bet.
Well, it's almost solid green. You've got a little bit of a faded green.
I know, and we have like 4 or 5 months not yet. So
yeah, it's just Opera Mini is just kind of keeping the red tab everywhere.
Yeah, well, that was part of our agreement, is like, except for Opera Mini, that's a totally different thing. Opera
I
Mini,
imagine anyone's really using that, but
it's huge actually in like developing countries. It's like the most used browser ever. Yeah, it's like I would like say like a good part of the world actually uses it, but like it's, I don't know, you have to get into what Opera Mini does and how it caches the content and all that stuff. So it more strips away a lot of the website so that it can deliver just the text and some basic layout to the user.
Okay. So this conference where you were talking with Sarah, what conference was that?
It's CSS DevConf, which it was in San Antonio last year, and then this year we're both speaking at it again. It's in New Orleans. And actually, I'm doing a React workshop there as well, which is going to be fun. So it's one of my favorite conferences every year. I've spoke at it a couple times now, and it's just a really good community event.
Yeah. Okay. So I was like I mentioned before we started recording, that I was speaking with Helen Holmes. We talked a lot about speaking at conferences, and how she got into it and how she sort of prepares her talks. Is that something that you can share as well? Like how do you find the whole process of creating a talk for a conference and then actually giving that talk as well?
Yeah. So my approach to conference talks is, I don't know, it's not the same as everybody. I'm a pretty laid back guy. I'm pretty off the cuff. So I spend a lot of time, but I know that there's like some people that spend like, I don't know, like for every 1 minute speaking, they spend like 3 hours of prepping and rehearsing and all that stuff. So mine is more, I'll come up with a topic of something that I'm really interested in and really excited about. And then I will deliver a talk that's full of, I don't know, it's more of like a tutorial where it'll explain what it is, how it works, what are the gotchas. And then I'll fill it with a lot of, like, I don't know, like tips almost. Yeah. So like when you would actually use it, because that's kind of what I do on Twitter as well, is I'll just tweet out tips all day long about how to actually use this stuff in real life. So my hope is like, it's not like a overarching introduction to a technology. It's more of like a sort of like, people will walk away with like 7 or 8 little things in their pocket where they're like, I didn't know that. Oh, that's super handy. How did I not know that? And then they just like kind of go away with all these new things that they have learned, rather than I don't know, there's other talks out there that are really helpful as well, that explain all the overarching topic or detail how they've overcome a problem. Mine is more like little nuggets where everybody goes home happy with a couple things.
Oh, that's good. It's an easier way of digesting the content, isn't it, when you're learning in small chunks as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's because if you come in late, or if you drift off, or you get bored of a certain slide, then chances are in a couple of minutes I'll be on to a new topic, and you can be interested in it again.
Have you ever given any conference talks in the UK, or do you have any plans to?
Yeah, I did. Last year I did Smashing Conf in Oxford, and I did Industry Conf in Newcastle upon Tyne.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a whole bunch of invites for all over the UK. It's funny, like I get way more invites to Europe and the UK than I do to the US and Canada. Yeah, I don't have any plans right now to come to the UK, just because like I have 2 new kids, so I don't do a whole lot of traveling, but I do have some coming up. I'm going to Paris in a couple of months, and South Africa, and I think it's September, something like that. So hopefully I'll come back to the UK soon.
Yeah, all right, good stuff. Obviously I've been asking you a lot of questions, and this is the purpose of this talk. But you get a lot of questions on Twitter, I noticed as well. I'm always asking you them as well, and there seems to be one that comes up quite a lot, which is about your text editor and the font that you use. And I noticed you've set up this nice Twitter bot which answers the question for you, called Wes Bos, and you've got a GitHub page, which is a AMA page, Ask Me Anything.
Yep.
And you've also set up the uses page of the tools that you use. Now, the uses page in particular is one of my favorite things that you've set up, because it's always really nice to see what other people are using. What sort of equipment you're using to do your recording, what tools you use, what plugins you use for your text editor, and I was inspired to do that as well, and I've created a similar page as well on my own website. And one thing that was really nice was when we had a little chat on Twitter with Harry Roberts from CSS Wizardry, and where he's used the IDA as well. So he's also got a /uses page as well.
I hope it becomes standard.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good idea, because mine was originally /tools, because the title of the page was the tools I use. But I've now changed mine to uses as well, because I just think it's a good pattern that if people can adopt it, then you could pretty much go to any designer, developer, or techie person's website, and hopefully they will have a uses page there, and you can just get to know what they do.
I love that. There was this website. I think it's still around. It was called Uses This.
Okay.
Let me see if it's still a thing. Yeah, and it was just interviews with like developers and creatives in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, it's still going. And it's just like, who are you? What do you use? And I was just so interested in like what editor and what monitor. It's such silly stuff, but I just love geeking out about that kind of stuff. So it's a fun thing to have.
Yeah, I think it's just it's one of those things where if someone else is using it and you respect what they're doing and what they're creating, it's almost like I want to use these tools as well and aspire to push out the sort of same quality of content that they're doing, and maybe the tools are part of that. I thought that was really, really interesting. So you get a lot of questions, but is there anything that you would like to be asked more of, that you wish people would ask you?
Yeah, in the last podcast I was on, I said barbecue, and now everybody's tweeting pictures of barbecue at me, which is amazing. I'm super into on Developer Tea.
Yeah, that's where I stole this question from.
Yeah, and it's funny that podcast got pretty popular, which is really cool, because everybody like from around the world, they're all just like showing me pictures of what barbecue is in their culture. So that's pretty cool. I really just I like when people ask me questions, because for as much as I talk, I also am listening all the time to like what are the motivations behind their questions, because that helps me really understand what courses to create, how to market things, how to talk to people, because there's a lot of like why behind when somebody asks you a question, and that's extremely helpful to me. So I'm really game for anything. It's part of why like I make myself so accessible online. It's a bit overwhelming at sometimes, because I've got like 40 Twitter DMs to work through right now, but open DMs, open email, ask me anything. I'm pretty responsive on Twitter, and that will help me really just hammer in. I know that's not an answer to your question, because I don't care what people ask me, but ask me anything, and I'm usually happy to chat about it.
Yeah. Are you getting a lot of questions about stickers at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to put some context into that?
Yeah, well, I'm like, web developers like stickers. It's funny. You could like, I could give you as a developer like $100 bill, and you would be like, thanks. But if I were to give you like $1.50 worth of stickers, then you would just like lose your mind, because that's the best thing ever, right?
Yeah.
So I've been printing stickers and giving them away at conferences and whatnot for a long time, just because I think it's really fun. And then recently it's really expensive. So I went through the whole process of sourcing them in China, and going through that whole process and getting them done quality at a much smaller price than like a sticker mule would be. And just people are just interested in what that process looks like, because I don't know, it was very interesting to me to source them and figure out how to pay someone in China and what the process to getting them all done was. So I need to write up some sort of blog post now where it'll detail how to actually do this as well, because a lot of people are asking.
You're going to put Sticker Mule out of business because everybody's going to be using your method now.
Yeah, well, it's really hard. Like, you have to like email and you have to go on Skype early in the morning while they're still awake. And like Sticker Mule is you drag and drop your image and it'll be at your doorstep in a week or something.
Yeah.
And then this was like months of research and work. And even now that I want to reorder, it'll probably be at least a month of production and shipping and whatnot. So it's not easy, but it allowed me to like do some cool stuff. Like, I got them packed into bags with like a custom design top.
Yep.
And the place in China where I got this done is like Print City. So like this is like one little city in China where they have like everything is printed, all the boxes and all the stickers and all the labels and all the tags for your clothing. So like I wanted gold foil stickers, and the guy didn't offer it, but I'm pretty sure he just like walked down the street and got them done at another place.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, and like all kinds of fun stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting to me to learn how to source that stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I've got a friend who does a lot of trading with in China as well. He's based here. He sells a variety of things, mainly sort of electronics and electronic peripherals. But he sources products from China, and I've done some design work for him in the past for his packaging and things like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he's told me some of the horror stories that he's had with trying to get just the communication barrier really. And the time difference is a big factor as well. But
it was hard, but
yeah, it's one of those places where you ask one person and they will just put you in touch with the right person as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, like Stick City, they have these little mini villages where everyone does the same sort of thing, but with a slight different twist on it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really cool. I actually got some stickers made for the podcast as well. I don't know if you've seen it. I did tweet a picture out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so Sticker Mule had a promotion on recently through Dribble. They had one of their Dribble playoffs. So I responded to that. Well, I rebound their Dribble shot and got 50 of these stickers for free. So I thought I'd get some branded for the podcast, and then I don't know, I'll send them out at some point to some people. I don't know
That's
who I'm going to give them to yet. I'll stick some in the post and I'll send some to you. You can.
Oh, that'd be cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you can put one on your laptop.
I've got some space left.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of space left as well. But it's funny because I stick these stickers on my laptop, but I try and be really perfect with them, get them all lined up, and then I peel them back off, and I don't like the layout.
Oh, no, you can't. That's no way to live.
I know. I see other people where they've just got them all layered on top of each other, but I don't know. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to sticking them on.
The way that I've seen it best, because you can't like make a grid, because as soon as you fill up that grid, then you can't fit in. But the best way I've seen it, I'm going to do my next one, is you start from like the bottom left-hand corner and you just start to grow it layered up from there. So you make sure that they're all overlapping. And then eventually, like after a couple of years, all the stickers will grow up to the top right-hand corner.
Yeah, I've kind of done that. I have started in the bottom right corner, and when you're looking down on it, but I have done them quite neat in a grid. But I have started in the corner, so it is filled up from one side, mainly on one side. But yeah, I need to work on that.
That should be a website. Is like, what is your sticker strategy?
Yeah,
and talking how, because I have a razor blade, and when I put them on the edges, I just cut them, and then it looks pretty cool to be like overlapping the edges.
That's a good idea. Well, now that you've set up this stickers website where you're selling, maybe you should get people to tweet in pictures or send you pictures of your stickers on their machines, and you can maybe make some sort of gallery.
That's the plan. I threw them in the post box this morning. So
yeah,
a mailbox. Here I am being super British. The post
box.
Put it in the mailbox this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. So while we're on the topic of questions, that's all of my main questions. Just wanted to see if there's anything that you wanted to ask me maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your hopes and dreams for this podcast? How do you want to? Do you have any tricks that you're going to use to explode it?
Get some good guests on like yourself, and hopefully that will attract the masses. But really, it's just the reason I actually started the podcast was just to sort of improve my ability to speak about a topic at length.
Yep.
Because I do hope to one day try and speak at a conference of some sort as well. I've spoken.
Oh, yeah.
I have tried speaking at small meetups, like local meetups, just in front of like small crowds of about 20 people, and it's been okay. But I'd like to get in front of a bigger crowd and sort of get into the deep end. But I set up this podcast as a way of just preparing for something bigger like that.
Yeah.
But I'm also really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying talking to new people and talking about design, development, tech, which is what I love talking about it with work colleagues. So why not talk about it with non-work colleagues as well, and just the wider audience.
Yeah.
It would be great if I had some, if people would send some more questions in. It's early days yet. I haven't really got to know who my listeners are and how many listeners I've got. I did recently, just last week, pass 200 downloads, which is a pretty good milestone, I suppose. I wasn't expecting it to reach that so soon. So I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah.
I know it's still small numbers compared to some of the other tech podcasts out there, but for me, it's a really good start, and I'm hoping that it'll just
grow and grow.
Congrats. And see where it goes, really, and hopefully it'll just help me sort of raise my general profile in the industry as well. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And if I can just provide some value for people, then it's all been worth it.
Yeah, totally. Even for me, like I've wanted to start a podcast forever, but it's so much work. But if I can just flip on my microphone and have you ask me questions and we can talk about some cool stuff, then it's a lot easier for me, right?
Well, there is obviously the post-production bit. There's the editing, and then there's the hosting and setting up iTunes, which was not the easiest thing in the world, getting your RSS feed correct.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's what people like me and you do anyway. We're used to building websites and working on these sorts of geeky projects. So it doesn't feel like work. It's just another little hobby on the side. And
yeah, exactly.
As soon as it starts feeling like work, then maybe I'll change the strategy or take a break from it. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying it. So just learning at the moment, still learning. I know there's a few tricks that involved with podcasting. Good ways to sort of attract sponsorship or attract guests, and how to do marketing is a little bit different for podcasts as well. So I'm still learning stuff like that. But
do you see what Noah Kagan did for his new podcast? I don't know if you know who that is.
No, I'm not aware.
One of the guys behind all the Sumo Me stuff. He offered people he said he'll mail them $1 if they subscribe to his podcast, which is genius, because if you have 10,000 people listening to your podcast, that means you spent $10,000 to get them. You could earn that back in ads in a couple of months. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty neat way of doing lead gen, as long as they stay subscribed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's one strategy to think about. I need to think of a few strategies, but I don't want to treat it too much like a business venture. I'm not doing this to make money or to gain any sort of fame. I just want to. The main reason I'd like the subscriber list to increase is so that I get some sort of two-way engagement and get a slightly bigger following on Twitter, so that people can give me their feedback, and that's the main reason, really.
Yeah.
So cool. That's hopefully that's answered your question. Yeah. So okay, it's been really good speaking with you, and thanks for coming on as a guest.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you've got coming up, or just where people can find out more about you on the web?
Yeah. So I'm Wes Bos everywhere. WESBOS. Wes Bos on Twitter is where I spend most of my days. You can take a look at my courses, which is at wesbos.com/courses. And I have got a coupon code for you, INSPECT, INSPECT. That'll give you $10 off any of my courses. So if you're interested in checking them out,
you can do that bit again if you want.
No, I leave the box in. I like it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, all right. That's brilliant. So thanks for doing that. So check out one of Wes Bos's courses and use the discount code INSPECT, and you'll get $10 off $10, right?
Perfect. $10, yeah. That $10 US. I know how many pounds is that?
I don't know. But
let's see. Here, I'm going to convert it right now.
It's probably not far off.
That is 7.73 British pounds.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. And yeah, hopefully everyone will jump on that, and you'll get some money from it, and everyone will learn some amazing things. Is that available across all the courses?
Yep, that'll work on all my courses.
Okay.
I've assigned it to all of them.
Okay, excellent. All right, so just remember that to check out wesbos.com/courses and use the code INSPECT to get $10 off.